Hey VC, what's up? It's me, yours truly. I am back to post a quick video here. Actually, I'm going to post a couple videos today. I'm going to try to. There's a few contests I need to do responses to. I've been out of town for a while and just got back. So yeah, I'm going to start off here by doing a entry into Steve Carlson. His, what did he title it again? His thank you drawing contest. And for those of you that have been around for a while, you kind of know, a year ago, Steve went through a horrible experience where he lost his entire collection, decades worth of collecting through a flood. And actually what I'll do is I'll leave a video link down below because he put some clips at the very beginning of the video. So go check that out if you don't recall or haven't seen it. And yeah, I mean, it was just freaking awful. There's no other way to put it. But also at the same time, two really cool things that kind of came out of it was seeing how the VC responded to it. There was a few GoFundMes that were set up, and just, people had given, had absolutely crushed the original goal of what was kind of being put out there. And even more so on top of that, Steve's attitude towards the whole thing. He kept positive. He's clearly a man who knows what's important in life. That's probably the best way to put it, and maybe one of the biggest compliments you can give a person. And like I said, his attitude and the way that he handled it just showed all of that. And with the amount of respect that I already had for him, it just went to a whole nother level with that. So yeah, Steve, amazing thing. Amazing guy, and just absolutely glad that I'm having the opportunity to jump on board and do a response to your drawing here. So yeah, let's just kind of jump right into it. He was just talking about with kind of building back up his collection and everything, the number of pieces of things that have been sent out to him and all of that. Just kind of the idea behind sharing some things that are in your collection that you were introduced to from somebody else that maybe you wouldn't have gone out on your own, or you didn't because you didn't even know about it. That could be being introduced to a new genre, being introduced to an album that became your favorite, or just whatever. So I pulled out a handful here, kind of stretching it across the years, going from 20 years ago up until like just a few weeks ago, kind of thing. So one person I do want to mention off the bat, I didn't pull any albums out here, but I know I have at least a good 10 plus albums in my collection from 33 RPM vinyl. I almost hate clicking on his videos because it's almost a guarantee there's something new going in my want list every time I click on his channel. He does a really good job with saying, here are the new things I got. Then he doesn't really talk about them. He'll just physically show them while doing a needle drop. And so it's just, you hear all these amazing tracks, and it's just like, oh my god, I gotta have that. Oh my gosh, I gotta have that. But I have a good chunk of stuff in my collection just from watching his videos, because he and I definitely, I think, kind of connect on the synth pop kind of dream pop kind of feel with a lot of things. So a lot of the stuff that he shows just really connects with me. But so kind of going into a few other things here, maybe one of the biggest ones here, arguably, New Order Substance, 1987. I had never heard of New Order before, and when I was in college, my suite mate, who happened to be, there were two soccer players, I believe his name was Jamie, was one of them. From 5 to 7 was a time that we didn't have to adhere to quiet hours. So from 5 to 7 p.m., you could play your music as loud as you wanted to in the whole nine, kind of you let loose or whatever. And so one day, he blasts his stereo, and we're all used to hearing stuff blasting, and I'm hearing this thing and I'm like, whoa, what is that? And it was Bizarre Love Triangle by New Order. And so I went next door, I was like, dude, what is that you are playing? He was like, New Order, you ever heard of them? Like, nope, but I'm about to go get it right now. So yeah, he was the one that introduced me, and actually it was Substance that he was playing. So he's the one that introduced me to that, and just freaking awesome. So that was a gigantic introduction right there. Another one here from someone in the VC that I don't think is posting as much now, but about 5 years ago, somewhere around there, 5 or 6 years ago, he introduced me to Miguel's Kaleidoscope Dream. Just talked about it in a video and the way he was describing it, I was like, let me check it out. And sure as crap, this is probably my favorite R&B album from the past 15 years, without question. Maybe 15 to 20 years. Absolutely love it, which is so ironic because I can't really stand any of his other albums. But this album is just on point. I love it to death. And so Secco Funk introduced me to that. And like I said, just one of my, let's say again, really, past 20 years, definitely my favorite R&B album. So talk about a heck of an introduction there. The next one here was an introduction to an artist that, of course, I knew very well, but this album came out. I just didn't pay any attention to it, didn't really care until Billy Hurst here in the VC, Riverbend Records, just started kind of telling me how amazing it was, just the way he was talking it up. I did a blind buy and went and purchased it just based on his reaction to it. And it is now my favorite album by this artist, which is Bruce Springsteen, Western Stars. And again, musically, just one of the most beautiful albums I've heard in I don't know how long. So not only just a blind buy, but like I said, my absolute favorite Bruce Springsteen album now. Such beautiful stuff on here, such as Chasing Wild Horses, Sundown, Stones, Hitchhiking. I mean, oh my gosh, this album is on point. It's just such a mixture of just soft power, of amazing lyric and storytelling, and just like the visions that it creates through the music and the lyrics. It's just incredible. And I always say, when I first saw it, I thought the cover was kind of like, what? Kind of stupid, but then when you dive into the feel of the album, this cover nails it. Just so yeah, talk about a gigantic introduction right there for someone to introduce you to what became your favorite Bruce Springsteen album. It's just awesome. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, L. Andrew, you guys know him here in the VC, big jazz guy, always talking about Blue Note stuff and always giving me something else to buy. But he introduced me to One Flight Up by Dexter Gordon, which again, an album I never heard of. Of course, I've heard of Dexter Gordon, had a few of his things, but this album is freaking awesome, absolutely amazing, and I never would even have known about it, much less given it a second look, if LA wouldn't have been talking about it that day in the way that he was. So that's a very, very recent introduction. And about, geez, how long ago was this? Maybe 8 years ago, 9 years ago, I was dating someone who had just started getting into record collecting, and she lived about, I don't know, maybe 40 minutes away. So she used to come to town sometimes, and then we start going to stores. Next thing you know, she starts buying records and gets a little Crosley record player and the whole nine. Well, through the course of that, she introduced me to a couple albums that I never really heard of and became some of my favorites. And one was the Gypsy Kings, Mosaic. It's kind of a, a Latin group, awesome acoustic guitar stuff, amazing vocals, and this specific album became my absolute favorite by them, mainly with the song, and I can never pronounce it right, Caminando por la Calle. I can never pronounce it right, but I can listen to it and it sounds freaking fantastic. First track on side 1. But just an absolute amazing album. And she had picked up a copy one day and I had no idea who it was, and we spun it when we got back to my place, and I was just like, that is amazing stuff, and I put it on my want list. So she introduced me to that one, and she was also the one that introduced me to Bob Marley's Babylon Bus. I'd listened to Legend for years and years and years, Exodus, all the ones that are kind of popular, but I just never made it around the Babylon Bus. And again, one time we were out and she picked this up and we spun it, and I was just like, wait, what? And became arguably my favorite Bob Marley album. Definitely one of my favorite live, if not my favorite live album. Especially this Abbey Road's pressing, it sounds absolutely fantastic. But she introduced me to both of those albums right there. going back to it, another friend, Stefan, a number of years ago, he was the one that introduced me to 10,000 Maniacs, Our Time in Eden. I'd never heard of them or Natalie Merchant, the whole nine, and one day just hanging out at his place, and he puts on this CD, and I'm just like, what? Again, just mind blown. And I was out next few days picking up a copy myself. But yeah, this was my introduction to 10,000 Maniacs. You know, songs like Candy, Everybody Wants, and These Are the Days was really the song that just, yeah. So he was the one that introduced me to this album. And let's see. My friend Angie, she was the one that introduced me to The Offspring. You know, I had never heard of them at the time. This was years and years ago. I had never heard of them, and she'd actually liked the band but didn't have any of their CDs. And she went to the library and had, you know, checked out the Smash CD. So she's playing in her car one day, and I'm like, that's cool stuff. Who is that? I never heard of them before. And, you know, that's when I first heard Self-Esteem and, you know, all that stuff. And it was just like, again, mind blowing. So she was the one that definitely introduced me to that album. And the last two here, some of our overseas VC friends. If you guys remember Diana, who used to post here in the VC, I always say this all the time, I can never remember what country she's from. Is it like Denmark or something like that? She doesn't post as much anymore because I think she's running a record store now. But she introduced me to a ton of stuff, mainly a lot of stuff on the jazz fusion side, as well as a lot of psychedelic stuff. But she's also the one that introduced me to what is one of my top 5 current jazz artists, which is Muriel Grossman. This is Reverence. And, you know, again, Diana she always did great needle drops, and that was the thing that always suckered me in. But again, I probably have a good 6 to 10 pieces in my collection that came directly from her videos and her needle drops. But Muriel Grossman is definitely the biggest because, like I said, she's become probably my current favorite jazz artist. You know, which says a lot. And so Diana directed me that way. It was absolutely huge. And then also the Metal Goddess, she doesn't post anymore right now too, but she introduced me to a lot of metal that, you know, was stuff, I guess, beyond just the mainstream, if you will. And one of the bands that she introduced me to was Arch Enemy, where she had sent me a couple of CDs. And this is Arch Enemy Covered in Blood, which is a 2 LP of not all, but a bunch of covers that they did. And, you know, they covered songs like Shout by Tears for Fears, Zoo by the Scorpions, you know, a bunch of Iron Maiden stuff, and just kind of all over the place. They just cover songs that they think are cool. But she sent me the CD, which had a cover they did of The Oath by Kiss. And I mean, I was just absolutely blown away at the cover. I mean, as if The Oath wasn't cool enough. I mean, the Arch Enemy just took it to a whole nother metal level. And so she was the one that introduced me to Arch Enemy, and kind of how I came across this album. And again, the main reason I bought this album because this was the one that has the cover of The Oath by Kiss on it. But, you know, also things like Aces High by Iron Maiden, Symphony of Destruction by Megadeth, Kill the Power by Man of War. I mean, they cover some pretty awesome freaking songs. So if you're not familiar with them, definitely check them out. But again, that Oath cover is definitely the first one I recommend checking out. So there's just a handful of, you know, tons of stuff in my collection that was been introduced to by friends, and quite a few, you know, here in the VC, which is why the DC could be a financially dangerous place. So, but anyway, again, Steve, glad you had a chance to put up this contest, man. Glad I had a chance to jump on board. As always, VC, let me know what you think, and we will talk to you soon. All right, take care, guys.